Good afternoon. We begin 13 News at 4 with breaking news. A deadly plane crash in Henry County.
The sheriff says one person is dead. Let's show you where this happened. This is in Sulphur Springs, which is around 8 miles north of Newcastle. Karen Campbell is there. Karen, I know you haven't been there too long, but what have you been able to learn since you arrived?
Yeah, Dustin and Felicia, we did speak with Indiana State Police. They briefed us on what happened just moments ago. Now, they're telling us that there was a small plane, which is, again, we're in a private airfield. You mentioned Sulphur Springs. This is a private grassy airfield that this small experimental plane was on the runway. And for some unknown reason, while the plane was on liftoff, on its way to liftoff, ISP says that plane then somehow crash landed. We want to go to some video that we shot earlier today when we were here. ISP telling us that this crash happened just a couple of hours ago, sometime around or after 2 o'clock this afternoon. We do know an 82-year-old man. He was the pilot, the only one on board. He unfortunately was pronounced deceased by the coroner here on the scene. Now, I mentioned this is a private airfield. It's called the Roberts Field Airport, just in Sulphur Springs. Now, we also learned the type of plane. I mentioned ISP said this was an experimental plane. We've learned this is a 1975 Stewart Bowers Flybaby, a single passenger airplane. We were also told that the FAA is on their way to the scene. They will conduct the investigation to let us know any more information they can in terms of how this plane potentially, or how this plane crashed, I should say, again, in this private airfield here in Sulphur Springs. And, you know, once we do see FAA come, we will, of course, try to get much information for them. But for now, Dustin and Felicia, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Karen Campbell reporting live near Sulphur Spring. Thank you. Of course, we're staying on top of this breaking news here on Channel 13 and WTHR.com. We'll have the latest as soon as Karen learns more. Other news now, the countdown is on for tonight's highly anticipated debate between former President Trump and Vice President Harris.
The eyes of the nation will be on that stage in Philadelphia as candidates square off for the first and possibly last time before Election Day.
NBC's Peter Alexander has a preview.
Just hours from now, the first and maybe only presidential debate between Vice President Harris and former President Trump. The face-off also notably the first time the two rivals will have met. Trump skipped President Biden's inauguration where they would have all been together.
How are you feeling?
Harris arriving in Philadelphia Monday after a series of mock debate sessions, complete with a stage and TV lighting, according to campaign sources. Sources also tell NBC News Harris and her team are focusing on ways to try to needle Trump, to provoke him, and that Harris has studied past Trump debate clips, like those where he lashed out at Hillary Clinton in 2016.
Such a nasty trust fund.
And repeatedly interrupted Joe Biden 4 years later.
Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now. Make sure you, in fact, let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question because the question is radical left. Will you shut up, man?
But tonight, the rules say the mics will be muted when it's not a candidate's turn to speak. Harris previewing her mindset.
We should be prepared for the fact that he is not burdened by telling the truth.
Less formal debate prep for the former president. Among those advising him, former Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who tangled with Harris in a primary debate 5 years ago. Now, some of Trump's allies urging him to focus on policy. His rival turned supporter Nikki Haley delivering this warning.
Donald Trump and J.D. Vance need to change the way they speak about women. You don't need to go and talk about intelligence or looks or anything else. Just focus on the policies.
Tonight's debate punctuates a frenetic 3-month political stretch that began with President Biden's dismal debate performance that ultimately forced his exit from the race.
If we finally beat Medicare.
Among Trump's priorities to tie Harris to Biden, and with the polls still neck and neck, tonight poses what could be the last major shakeup in this race.
And you can catch tonight's debate right here on Channel 13 with full coverage starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. On to more news we've been covering. A rideshare driver is under arrest, accused of killing a woman that he just picked up.
Really disturbing update to this story. Police tell us they found 30-year-old Shanti Dixon's body yesterday afternoon near Raymond Street and Sherman Drive. Investigators say Dixon's family reported her missing after not hearing from her for several days. Officers arrested 29-year-old Francisco Valadez on a preliminary charge of murder.
I also want the community to know that at this time, we believe this to be an isolated incident. Ride shares continue to be an excellent and a safe option to use when you're out in our community. Socializing, touring, they continue to be a safe and excellent option to use. We encourage anyone who's using a ride share to always check the make, the model, the name of the driver. Check those with your app. Make sure that it is the person that your app is indicating should be the person who is picking you up.
Police say preliminary information indicates Valadez was a rideshare driver who picked up Dixon before she was shot and killed. Technology in the rideshare app helped police find him. The suspect in the Delphi murders case wants to appeal 2 key rulings by the judge.
And that appeal could delay his trial. Richard Allen's trial is scheduled to start in about 5 weeks on October 14th. But late yesterday, his attorneys asked the judge for permission to have the Indiana Court of Appeals review 2 issues before the trial even starts.
1, the judge's decision to allow jurors to hear alleged confessions Allen made while in custody. And 2, her ruling to prevent the defense from mentioning Odinism and other possible suspects. That is critical for the defense's strategy.
Allen is accused of murdering Abby Williams and Libby German in February of 2017. Our Emily Longnecker has been covering this case since then, and coming up tonight at 5, she spent the day talking with experts about why this effort might or might not succeed and whether the trial is likely to actually happen next month. We'll have all that for you.
All right, going to switch gears here and talk about the weather for today. Time lapse on the western side of Marion County. Beautiful stuff here. See a little bit of that haze, but another comfortable day. Warmer day as expected. Made it into the lower and mid 80s here around central Indiana, but look at those dew points that remain in the 40s. So the humidity at 27%. Yes, warmer. 85 Shelbyville, 85 in Martinsville, 84 in Fishers, but it still feels pretty decent for this time of year and with this kind of warmth here. Warmer than yesterday by about 5 degrees over most locations, so we'll tack on another couple before we're done. And there, as I talked about, stays dry. That'll be key to what happens later in the week. More on that in a little bit. Opening night of the last homestand at Victory Field. 6:35 first pitch. It is dollar menu night. Weather is looking fantastic here. Going to be a bit hotter for tomorrow. Talk about that and Francine all ahead in the 7-day forecast.
All right, Sean, we'll be staying tuned for that. So take a look at our cameras. They're a little glitchy here, but this gives you a good picture of what's going on right now. This is I-69 and 82nd Street. Things are certainly, the road is packed. The highway is packed right now if you're headed out. Also, here's a look at 465 and 69 South. As you can see, things are moving there. We'll keep an eye on it.
In the last month, at least 6 students have been accused of making threats against their schools here in central Indiana. 5 were made online. 2 of the threats were in Marion. Others include Warren Central, Perry Meridian and Anderson, and Kipp Legacy High Schools. In just the last week, we've seen at least 5 students taken into custody. Over the next 2 weeks, though, some students in Washington Township will be involved in what school officials there call a personal and proactive approach to school safety.
Rich Nye went to North Central High School today where the students were asked to accept Rachel's challenge.
The entire student body at North Central High School was part of a convocation Tuesday on school safety. School safety through a culture of kindness.
I want you to think about the people that you see as you walk these hallways throughout each day.
Seniors sat in the auditorium.
And I want you to think about the fact that they might be going through something you know nothing about.
The rest of the school watched online.
And how you can show them an act of kindness.
Rachel's Challenge is a movement to start a chain reaction of kindness in schools. The program is inspired by the life and writings of Rachel Joy Scott, the first person killed in the Columbine High School shooting in 1999.
We don't always have to understand people and their perspective, but man, if we can just show a little compassion, if we can just choose to, be a positive influence of someone.
The goal of the program is to help schools become safer, more connected places to learn.
I like this approach. It's a little different flavor than having to evacuate or some of the things that we do on a regular basis. This is a little different taste, and I thought it was a very impactful and effective way to talk about safety as well.
One act of kindness, that smile, that hello, how you doing, how's your day going, hey, I'm glad you're here today. Those kind words, those actions can make a big difference in people's lives.
School violence prevention through self-care and helping others. In Indianapolis, Rich Knight, 13 News.
And we're going to learn more about this coming up a little bit later.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. Tonight at 6, we'll hear from a student about the impact of today's message and what happens next with Rachel's Challenge at North Central High School.